Hey Scream Team! After last week's episode, we probably should talk at least a little bit about Audrey. I, for one, am super glad that Emma stepped up to the plate and decided to completely lie under the law to get Audrey off the hook, which is super dangerous. Don't do that in real life, but as far as the television show goes, it was a nice sentiment. I would totally love to agree with Emma and just completely write off everything that Audrey's done. I really don't think that she's involved in the killings. I also really don't want to think that she's involved in the killings, so I might be biased, but I'm pretty sure we're in the clear. It does leave some tiny little questions that I have about Audrey that I still want to talk about, if that's okay. Is that okay? Awesome. First of all, we know as viewers that the call that Rachel got is the only call that sounded any different than any other call from the murderer. Now, I know Audrey already explained that the murderer is using some really well-known voice changer device that anyone has access to. But it doesn't change the fact that that's not who Rachel got a call from. The voice that Rachel heard on the phone sounded a lot like Audrey, which is probably the only reason she went outside in the first place. That doesn't necessarily mean that it was Audrey, but it does beg the question, is there a public voice changer out there that just really sounds like Audrey's voice? Does the killer somehow have a recording of Audrey's voice that they manipulated? Or was it Audrey? The other thing the killing might mean is that Rachel's death isn't necessarily connected to the rest of the Lakewood killings. Or connected, but not necessarily by the same person. Audrey could be guilty of one thing without having to take responsibility for the entire plot of this season. The other thing I want to bring up about Audrey is a little clip from the pilot episode. When Noah's going on his monologue about how everyone in the town has secrets, we get a tiny little clip of Audrey pulling stuff off of her wall. And there's a picture of Brandon James. Maybe that's just a relic because Noah is completely obsessed with him. But we don't really have an explanation for it yet. And when we don't have explanations for things, I get kind of nervous about things. Because I don't know if that's something super small that MTV threw in there to make us super suspicious, or if that's actually the key to the entire show. We don't know. Super scary, angry video aside, I really love Audrey. I'm really glad we get to keep her for a little while. And I'm excited to see where she fits into the plot for the rest of the season. Now there's someone else I want to talk about before this week's episode airs. And it might not seem as important, but this is something that's been really bugging me lately. Or someone. Before I begin, I would like to make a PSA that my comments on this character are completely separate from the actor. That's very important to remember, guys. Connor, you're wonderful. But the person I want to talk about is Will. Because as the Plain White Tees would say, hate is a strong word, but I really don't like Will. It's no secret anymore that Will has made a lot of mistakes this season. He completely lied to his girlfriend about the terms of their relationship. He took a video of him and his girlfriend having sex for the first time. And there's also the tiny little thing about running a blackmail organization, or whatever you want to call your little fun hobby with Jake. I understand that people make mistakes. I understand that Will has tried to apologize for these actions. Unfortunately, there are some things that sorry just doesn't quite cut it for. Especially when the subclause to that is, Jake made me do it. Or, Nina made me do it. Do you see how it makes it sound like you're sort of like not sorry because you feel like you're not responsible for your actions? Now maybe I'm just being ridiculous about this, because MTV has been really good about pushing the good guy Will angle. If you check the Tumblr, if you check the Twitter, they're just super happy that Will is trying to make amends by going behind Jake's back and telling Piper all about everything that had to do with blackmail and giving the video back to the mayor. My problem is, I have serious trust issues with MTV now, so I don't know if MTV is pushing that angle because they want me to forgive Will so I won't bitch about him for the rest of the series, or if they want me to forgive Will so that when it turns out that Will is actually responsible for a bunch of crap happening in Lakewood, they can just pull the rug out from under my feet. It's possible that Will isn't responsible for everything happening in Lakewood at the moment. I doubt that he is the huge mastermind behind everything. But it's still a possibility. Another reason I'm not a huge fan of Will is probably because of his juxtaposition with Jake, who I kinda like. Before anyone freaks out, no, I do not think that Jake is a good person, but I do think that he's a really good character. As a viewer, personally, I would much rather watch someone who is evil and knows it and manipulates everyone around them for their own gain, than someone who does a bunch of crappy stuff and then says, "But I'm a good guy." That's just really frustrating to me, which is why I really like Jake as a character, and I need to get that out there now, because I'm pretty sure we don't get to keep him. It's making me very sad. I'm not quite sure what it would take for me to completely forgive Will. Some of you might suggest, shouldn't you just forgive him now that he's been stabbed by the killer? No. Largely because of aforementioned trust issues, I'm not completely sold on the whole Will's getting attacked by the murderer thing. It was very clean. It's also been known to happen that people fake their deaths in the Scream movies, stab themselves just to put on a show. Maybe I'm just being overly suspicious, but I wouldn't be completely surprised if the stabbing incident at the end of last week's episode was staged. We won't really know what happened to Will until the next episode, so don't forget to tune into MTV Tuesday at 10/9 Central. You could also not forget to subscribe to Banshees Screams if you want to hear more Scream talk. That would be nice. Shing!